Good evening. I'd like to call the regular South Windsor Town Council of October 7th to order. And please stand if you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Okay. Councillor Buganski. Present. Councillor Lewis. Present. Councillor Balboni. Present. Councillor Carey.
Present.
Mayor Delnicki.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Siracusa. Councillor King.
Here.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Present.
Councillor Pendleton.
Present.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Mayor's remarks. I have a few items for tonight. It's October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Breast Cancer Awareness Month has been recognized in the United States since 1985. It all began as a partnership between the American Cancer Society and the Pharmaceutical Division of Imperial Chemical Industries. Fire Prevention Week 2024 is taking place this week, October 6th through the 12th, and this year's theme is smoke alarms. Make them work for you. Fire Prevention Week is a nationally observed week in the United States and Canada. Every month there are questions on the Facebook message boards about when is bulky waste pickup. A friendly reminder is the schedule is for bulky waste collection is the first full week of each month and is collected on your regular trash collection day. This week, October 7th through 11th, is the week for bulky waste collection. For the remainder of 2024, bulky waste collection will be the week of November 4th through the 8th and December 2nd through December 6th. And today marks the 7th, October 7th marks the one-year anniversary of the attack on the state of Israel. 97 hostages are still being held, and 7 or 8, I've been hearing different numbers, are American citizens. And today marks the 11 days since Hurricane Helene made landfall as a Category 4 storm in Florida's Big Bend region. The impact of this devastating hurricane has been widespread, affecting communities across America's southeast, stretching over 500 miles and leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. There are several reputable organizations that are actively involved in the relief efforts. If you are able, please consider donating to Samaritan's Purse, American Red Cross, All Hands and Hearts, AmeriCares, and Direct Relief. Contributions matter, no matter how small. And finally, Monday, October 14th, South Windsor Town offices and the school district will be closed in observance of Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day. Thank you. And moving on.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
May I ask for a moment of silence for the lives that were lost in the hurricane and prayers for the folks that are going to be seeing another hurricane in Florida, please?
Sure. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 5, adoption of the agenda. Councillor Pendleton.
Adoption of the agenda.
We have a motion. We have a second. Second. Any discussion?
Then moving 17A.
Councillor
Oh, sorry.
Carey.
Go ahead.
I would like to make
Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to move item 17A between item 7, public input, and before item 8, adoption of the minutes.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of moving 17A? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, that motion carries. And another motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Second. I make a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Moving on to item 6, communications and reports from the town manager. Mr. Maniscalco.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In terms of my written report for all of you, Dart Hill Tower Emergency Communications Equipment, the tower approval has been a controversial item recently. I wanted to make the council aware that the owners of the tower are required by the Siting Council, which I think we all remember is a state agency, to provide the town space for emergency communications equipment. This opportunity will certainly help with some communication challenges for our first responders in certain parts of the town. At the next meeting, the council can expect to have a resolution that will allow the town to enter into agreements to hang equipment on that tower. In terms of the collector's update, while down slightly, staff are confident that with continued use of collection tools, the town will maintain a collection rate of 99+%. Demand notices had to be compiled by Monday, September 30th, once staff processed all the mail with an effective date of September 30th. The collector will review accounts to set the criteria for alias tax warrants. We have 2 state marshals and constables that have agreed to collect on the town's behalf for 60 days. I'm not going to read over the entire chart, but just so everybody can see the overall, 2022 grand list, we were at 55.56% at this point in the year, and this year for the 2023 grand list, we were at 55.4%. Also, a tax sale update. Attorney Cohen has been given 16 accounts with delinquent taxes along with 4 blighted properties. He will issue a final demand to be complied with by 10/31. As we move along in the process, staff will provide additional updates. It is anticipated that the sale will occur in March or April of 2025. Just as a further note in terms of this report, once the sale does go through, residents would have, or property owners would have an additional 6 months to make good on the taxes that are owed. Additionally, this is the first time that we've put blighted properties who owe on delinquent blight liens into a tax sale, so we'll be moving forward with that in an effort to try to clean those up as well. Lastly, in terms of DEI training, the town held its annual Diversity, Equity, Inclusivity training on September 25th, 2024 for all staff. The training was conducted by Doug Sutherland and was focused on the words we use and how they can have impacts on those around us. This training will meet the requirements for the social justice ordinance that the council had put in place, I think, 2 years ago. Lastly, one item not on the agenda. I know there's been some discussion, and I think if the council thinks back to Verizon and the Veterans Memorial Park Tower that we have, Verizon, we entered into an agreement with Verizon to hang some equipment up there. Hopefully that'll help with some of the cell services. We've heard from Verizon that they will be hanging their equipment sometime in Q1 of 2025, so everybody's aware. And that is all I have on my report tonight. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any question? Councilor Pendleton?
Mr. Maniscalco, our town phones are not Verizon, correct? They're T-Mobile?
I believe they're T-Mobile.
Okay. So is that going to help any of us that are on that side of town?
For the town-owned phones?
Yeah.
Probably not. I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you.
As an aside and a little plug, we do have some agreements on the agenda that could potentially help, so there you go.
Is Verizon the only carrier on that tower, or do we have AT&T? Because I think T-Mobile is AT&T.
I think right now Verizon is the only one, although I have heard there may be interest, but I believe we have some representatives from Marcus here that could probably talk to us a little further about that sort of stuff later in the agenda.
Okay.
Should Marcus come up and speak now? Or
Well,
do
we have items on the agenda we could
Got
talk
it.
to. Yeah.
Okay, seeing nothing further, moving on to item 7, public input for items on the agenda. Public input shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by the mayor, the speakers shall approach the lectern, give their name and address. Speakers shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any person. The speakers may address the council on any item on the agenda. The speaker shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Is there anyone who'd like to come forward at this time? Mr. Jodis? Can you need to turn the mic on? There you go.
There we go. My name is Bill Jodas, and I live at 32 Green Lane, South Windsor. And I'm here representing Startline Development, requesting an abatement for property at 90, 100, and 120 South Satellite Road. We're a family-owned business. I've lived in South Windsor for 63 years. All three principals grew up in South Windsor. We all went through the South Windsor school systems. Right now, this property is yielding $2,600 a year in property taxes. If we do this building, the property will yield $79,000 a year in property taxes. So many current companies in town started in places similar to this incubator facility, and after being there for many years, they moved into larger facilities around town, and many of them are contributing to the tax base in a good way in town now. Of course, we'll use local businesses after this building's built to do all the property maintenance, lawn care, snow plowing, HVAC maintenance, that kind of thing. But under the current economic conditions of high interest rates and increased construction costs, so a tax abatement is really crucial to making this project financially feasible. The abatement will help get us through the first few years as we sign up tenants. Our company and Esteem Manufacturing, another company that's applying for an abatement, we're the type of companies that are the fabric of the town. We shouldn't be overlooked. We're the type of companies that support local programs. The construction side of our business, PDS, Engineering and Construction, has been very charitable to the town over the years. We built the Little League dugouts down at the Craig Pepin Field at the Little League Complex for no cost to the town. We donated all the concrete for the concession building down at the Little League Complex. At the Nevers Road Park, we donated the erection of all the framing for the pavilion building. That goes back a ways. But we realize it's not a one-way street. I can assure you that the award will be returned in kind to the town in the future. What I'm saying is, don't turn your backs on the little guys in town. Long before the Home Depots, the Aldis, the Coca-Colas arrived, the town relied solely on small companies like Esteem and Startline for their tax revenue. We're the type of companies that really care about the town. We're the type of companies that support the town. So these projects are a win-win for the town. You can add revenue to your tax base, and you're not going to add any burden to your school system. So I just want to thank you for your time and look forward to a favorable decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jodas. Anyone else like to come forward at this time?
Good evening, how are you? Good evening, how are you? My name is Mark DeCiancia, 39 Debbie Drive, South Windsor, Connecticut. I guess I have some questions regarding transparency on the Skank Road and Scannick Meadow Road. My concerns are that I'm going to ask some questions. The property never should have been transferred to South Windsor, only East Windsor, or to a non-profit organization, which the town of South Windsor knew about the restriction. Will South Windsor back out of the entire agreement with the East Windsor Scout Hall Building Committee? Who told South Windsor that East Windsor maintained and will continue to maintain Skank Road? Is that in writing, or what authorization do we have on maintaining that road? Was the activation of Skank Road and the rest of 339 Scannick Road ever officially authorized? The South Windsor Town Council meetings referring to 220 Scannick Road and the property in South Windsor, but not 339 Scannick Road. And some of the meetings that were held in December of 2020 that leads into December of 2021. What about the other two pieces of property of land in East Windsor that was part of 33 Scannick Road? Was that ever transferred to South Windsor? Will South Windsor keep them and have to maintain that path? What attorney did South Windsor use for the land transaction? Their own attorney, or did they use the East Windsor Scout Hall Building Committee attorney? Did South Windsor attorney not notice how East Windsor Scout Hall Building Committee snuck in Schedule B, referring to a special use permit in the deed, which wasn't in the East Windsor deed, I believe, with Jason Bosworth, which is a selectman. What about the $100,000 DEP study? Did the DEP know that South Windsor didn't even own the land at the time based on the study? Somebody's got to be held accountable for all this. I think we're pointing fingers at a lot of different people. I believe South Windsor's pointing fingers at East Windsor, East Windsor's pointing fingers at South Windsor, and now both East Windsor and South Windsor are pointing fingers at the developer. I think, truthfully, I think both the town manager, our town manager, and our attorney, at the time, I don't know which attorney it was, and the attorney with Jason Bosworth has no clue what's going on. I think there's a little cover-up being held at Shank Meadow Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward at this time? Mr. Trachtenberg?
Jeff Trachtenberg, 111 Oxford Drive. I'm requesting the town consider allowing the Israeli flag to be flown as a gesture of solidarity with Israel, particularly in light of the horrific acts of terrorism committed by Hamas 1 year ago today. These unprovoked attacks result in the tragic loss of innocent lives, widespread destruction, and immense suffering. Displaying the Israeli flag would signify a unwavering support for Israel during these challenging times. By flying the Israeli flag, we can stand in solidarity with a nation that has been a steadfast ally of the United States and a beacon of democracy in the Middle East. This action would serve as a powerful reminder of the importance of uniting against terrorism and violence. Before casting your vote, I encourage you to reflect on the atrocities committed by Hamas against the Jewish people. Consider the ongoing protests at locations like Wall Street and Columbia, where thousands express anti-Israeli sentiments on the anniversary of a devastating act of terror. We have witnessed unimaginable horrors, including violence against women and children, firsthand. Flying the Israeli flag represents more than mere symbolism and underscores our commitments to democratic values and the resilience of a nation facing adversity. In recent weeks, Israel has encountered significant challenges that threaten its security and well-being. In conclusion, I urge the Town Council to consider the powerful message that flying the Israeli flag will convey to our community and beyond. Let us demonstrate our commitment to shared values and democracy and solidarity. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward? Mr. Kennedy.
Hi, Joe Kennedy, 81 Allison Drive. I urge the Town Council to grant a tax abatement to Startline Development and Esteem Manufacturing. Billy Jodis and family are the proposals of Startline. It's going to be small businesses and startups, and that's exactly what we want. Also, if you go down the hill where the annex is in the old post office, the house next to it, that was Dr. Jodis. Billy's mother was there, was the eye doctor. You can get an exam. And so these people that are coming up, especially the small businesses, have been in here all, many, many years. Then I like to say there's some disinformation. People think that you get a tax abatement, you're getting 100%. You might get a 3-year tax abatement, it might be 40, 30, 20. You might get a 3-year tax abatement, it might be 30, 20, 10. It's all, and you get input afterwards when it's presented to you. As far as esteemed manufacturing, we can't get enough manufacturing in this town. So, and then finally, please support your local businesses, farm stands, and farmers market. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward at this time for any item on the agenda? Forward. Going once, going twice. Okay, moving on, thank you. And we're moving on to 17A, Councilor Carey.
I would like to make a motion to go into executive session and to invite Town Manager Michael Maniscalco, Assistant Town Manager Scott Roberts, Town Attorney Rich Carello to discuss item 17A, a discussion regarding the disposition of real property known as Shank Road, East Windsor and pending litigation related thereto pursuant to CGS 1-206B and 1-206D.
Do I hear a second? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We will be back shortly. Okay, call the meeting back to order, please. And moving on to item 8, adoption of previous meeting minutes. Counselor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting. I move approval of the September 16th, 2024 Town Council regular meeting minutes. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the regular Town Council meeting of September 16th, 2024.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion changes? Counselor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The only change that I have is on page 11, number 16, with the communications from the council. In the second paragraph, when I asked to call for the special meeting, it should read Councilor Balboni, Councilor Lewis, and Councilor Boganski, not Councilor Carey. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Any other changes to the minutes? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 9, communications, liaisons, officers, and boards directly responsible to the council. Councilor Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended the WPCA meeting, and it went well. There's some folks in town that were there, and they had decided to not adopt the new planning and zoning map, but to continue with the old sewage map for zoning. And also at the Parks and Rec meeting, some town folks were there in support of the pool, and their liaison to the Board of Ed announced that they're installing solar panels in some of the schools. And that's all I had to report.
Thank you, Councilor Lewis. Councilor Balboni.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Patriotic Commission met in September. They elected Billy Carroll as the chair and Art Slatic as the vice chair. They, being the commission, and me on behalf of the council, wish to thank Ed Galinsky and Jean Boderin for their service as chair and vice chair for the past 2 years. The commission's also working on November 11th, Veterans Day, participating in school programs for TE and South Windsor High School, as well as the elementary schools. In addition, the public is invited to Veterans Memorial Park on November 11th at 11 a.m. for the annual and very meaningful Veterans Day ceremony.
Thank you. Councilor Carey.
Planning and zoning met, and they had 2 public hearings, and that were later both approved. One was for a special exception to have a daycare at St. Peter's Episcopal Church, and the other was to make text amendments to what is referred to as the Center Court Overlay Zone, which is the area around Stop and Shop and those stores and things across the street from Stop and Shop. I won't go through all the text amendments, but there were a number of them. And that was it. They both passed.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, and I just have 2 items. We have 2 meetings on Wednesday night. We have Inland Wetlands Conservation Commission, application 24-35W. It's a modification to expand the existing infiltration basin and add drainage. Properties located at 29 Mascola Road and 769 John Fitch Boulevard. Again, it's the McDonald's over on Route 5. And then on Wednesday, we also have a special meeting, the Housing and Fair Rent Commission, which is at 7 p.m. here in the Town Hall lower level. And seeing none further, moving on to item 10, reports from committees. Seeing none, moving on to item 11, consent agenda. 11A, Councilor Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion to approve 11A1 as a first reading of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 11A2 and 3, Councilor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to approve 11A2 and A3 as a first reading on the consent agenda.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Item 11B1, Counselor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion to approve 11B1 as a second reading on the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 11A, Melissa, I think it's 11. Yes. 11A, miscellaneous, having none. Moving on to 12, unfinished business, having none. Moving on to 13, new business. Item A, discussion item, Timothy Edwards Middle School and Pleasant Valley Elementary School solar array placements. Chris Tamerka and Attorney Matt Ranelli.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Delnicki and members of the council. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about our solar projects that we've been doing on the Board of Education side. So back in 2019, in collaboration with the Town Energy Committee, we started a relationship with a company called Titan Gen. Titan Gen is the energy consultant that we contract with for the South Windsor Board of Education, and they are also the energy consultant that is used with, for CCM. So the mutual interest that brought us together was the use of green energy and reducing costs across the district. And the interesting part about this is that we were able to do this and continue to do this with no capital outlay from the town or any cost to South Windsor, to the South Windsor community. So I wanted to just walk you through a quick overview of how the project works, kind of how it rolls out and where we are today. So over the years, since 2019, there have been different kinds of incentive programs that the state of Connecticut has brought forward. They've had different names. We started with a program called the ZREC program, which stood for Zero Emissions Renewable Energy Credit. We're now in a program called NRES, which is Non-Residential Renewable Energy Solutions Program. And although they do have some differences, I'm just going to kind of give you an overview of basically how they both work. So the state provides incentives for companies to build these green energy solutions. On our behalf, when we hired Titan Gen, what they do is they need to, on our behalf, they participate in either that ZREX or the NRES program. And what they do is they participate in a bid to see if they can win an award for the incentive programs from the state. So this started back in 2019. We were awarded bids for certain projects that I'll get into, and we do have incentive award for 2 other projects that I'm going to be discussing with you tonight. So once those incentives are won, Titan Gen then prepares an RFP to select an energy company to then build, manage, and own and operate the solar arrays that go on our buildings. These companies expend their monies to build and manage these projects, and then they are paid in the future by selling energy back to Eversource. So that's why it's no cost to us. All of the projects that we have done in the past and the ones that we are planning to do that we're going to talk about tonight were won by a company called Green Skies. During this time and since 2019, we have worked with Attorney Matt Ranelli, who is here with us tonight. He is from Shipman and Goodwin. He is the chair of Shipman's Renewable Energy Practice as well. He has worked for us and worked to negotiate what is called the power purchase agreement with these energy companies. They are very complicated agreements, and gratefully he has the expertise to take care of that on our behalf. Most recently, why I'm here tonight is to talk to you about the next 2 buildings that we're planning to do is Pleasant Valley and Timothy Edwards Elementary School. And also, just as a side note, when we did build the new elementary schools, we did build them with the intention that we would be able to do this in the future so that the roofs were prepped for that type of work. So the next step is when we purchase energy from Green Skies, the way that we save money is we purchase then the energy directly from Green Skies, and that rate is lower than the Eversource rate. So the amount of money that we save is whatever the Eversource rate is minus Green Skies, that's the savings. So you can imagine over time, if Eversource rates go up, then our savings actually go up. At this point, and the savings difference, the other difference is on the Green Skies PPA agreements, the contracts, they are 20-year fixed prices. So that's also helpful. So at this point, we have already completed projects on the Eli Terry, Orchard Hill, and Philip R. Smith elementary schools, as well as the high school. And then tonight, we're asking to sign contracts for Pleasant Valley and Timothy Edwards. And then in the future, our last project for solar arrays would be the high school annex or the old Wapping building. So that will go, the next phase of that will be that Titan Gen on our behalf will go and try to win the incentive awards for the high school annex. Matt may know exactly when that next round is coming up, but if we don't win in the next, we'll try again until either the program change or we do something different. But we have won all the other ones in the past, so we're hopeful that we would win that last and final one. So in total, with all of these projects, conservatively, over the life of these projects, we anticipate that the community will save $5 million. And we have already been seeing some of those savings on the buildings that we have already completed. This information was reviewed with the Board of Education on the September 24th meeting, so if you would like to watch that meeting to see some more information, there was a PowerPoint that was provided by Adam Teff, just showed some pictures of what the solar arrays look like, and he talked a little bit more about the process. So the next informal step, and the reason I'm here tonight, is that due to the length of the project, each project is a 20-year project, we are required to ask Town Council to allow us to execute the power purchase agreement. Prior to tonight's meeting, the power purchase agreement drafts have been sent to Attorney Corella and to Town Manager Mike Maniscalco for their review and comment. And that's it for my presentation. If you do have questions, Attorney Rinelli and I are here to answer them.
Councilor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just real quick, just because I know from time to time we have situations in which personal homeowners, they get the solar put on their roof and then maybe something happens. Who is, say for example, all of a sudden there's leaks or whatever, who's going to be responsible for anything? Do we have to take somebody to court, or is that all part of the agreement?
So I will ask Mr. Rinelli to join us. High level, I'm going to say we're going to be okay, but I'll let him tell you some more details about that.
This is my favorite question because it's the one I ask.
Okay.
And the answer is that they are required to install this facility and comply with the roof warranty for the building. So because these are long-term contracts, the first question that the Board of Ed answers is the roof appropriate? Is there enough useful life left in it? So if you have a new roof, some of the schools do, they have a roof warranty, so the contract requires them to comply with the terms of that warranty, and they have to have a kickoff meeting. They have to use whatever equipment is required by the roof manufacturer. If they don't, then they're responsible. If they do, and something happens to the roof, then it's the school's responsibility if it wasn't caused by the system. So it really depends on what happens, but the way to mitigate that risk is to require them to comply with the warranties.
Thank you.
Councilor Boganski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of questions on how the whole thing works. So under the solar services payment section, the 20-year fixed contract price, that's what we pay.
Correct.
For electricity? And
that's what, under the agreement, what the Board of Ed will pay.
So, and we would, at that point, we would get 100% of our power for that school or that facility from Green, whomever, at this rate, or?
No, so the facilities, this is more of a technical question, but the facilities are sized based on either the anticipated load of the school or the capacity of the roof, because it may not accommodate the whole load. I don't think either of these facilities accommodate the entire load. So the school is never disconnected from the grid. So if ever there were a time where the solar system wasn't operating, there would always be power, and the school would pay the regular rate for that power. So any power that's needed in surplus of what's generated comes off the grid and the school pays the regular rate. But the first power is coming off the grid. Essentially, the needs are met, coming off the solar system.
Right, okay. And then I guess just why is the rate higher for TE versus Pleasant Valley? Why is the rate different?
Yeah, again, that would be more of a technical question, but the answer is that's not uncommon. It depends on the complexity of the system. Was there some work that needed to be done that's rolled into that price on the roof, things like that. These are, I would say, market prices because they went out to an RFP, and it could be that the Pleasant Valley, I believe that's is that new construction? Yeah, so it may just be that they can incorporate that during the construction, it's less expensive. It just has to do with what the capital cost is for Green Skies. They then amortize that into your rate.
Right, okay, thank you. That's it.
Councilor Pendleton?
Mr. Maniscalco, with having the solar on the school, on the high school or the other schools, does that allow us to have that set up as an emergency shelter if need be because of the solar?
I don't believe the solar will have any impact on those, on the use of those schools, whether it's for an emergency operations shelter or something else like that.
Well, I think my question, we don't use it now as a shelter, correct? We use the
No, we
community
don't.
center.
Correct.
But could we use it as a shelter if need be?
Sure.
Because of the solar?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
If I could, though, just for clarity, these are not set up, these systems, for island mode. So the solar, the electrons actually flow to the grid. It's a little bit of this is the way solar is commonly done, but it's a little bit of a fiction that the electrons don't really go into the lights and the fixtures in the school. So there is an option to convert solar facilities to what they call island mode. So in the event of an emergency, they would power the facility during daylight hours. But typically, and these systems included, that's not the way they're set up. So there is no emergency power. That would be a separate project to convert them.
Yeah, we would most likely, if we were to use one of these schools for a shelter, we would be looking to get a generator for it.
Yeah.
And I can add that we do have a generator at the high school, so if there were a need, we could likely use at least a portion of the building. I'm not exactly sure about the entire building, but there is some ability to use the high school as a shelter because of the generator.
We had fuel cell years ago.
Yes, we don't have that anymore, but we do have a generator.
All right, thank you.
Anyone have any further questions on this discussion item? Okay, seeing none, thank you. And moving on to item 13B, discussion item, South Windsor High School Library Roof Replacement. Chris Jamerka.
Sorry, I didn't know I was discussing this one. But certainly, we are on our final phase of our high school roof replacement. We have done that just with capital funding. We have broken that up and done it in different sections. And we are just looking to do the final phase of the roof replacement. It is 33 years old. We do have the funding. We're just looking for the approval to move forward.
Okay, Councilor Pendleton.
If the grant is received, will that money go back into CIP, Mr. Roberts?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
If the grant, because it's saying the grant application process to receive the state reimbursement, so we would receive state reimbursement, would that go back into CIP?
I would guess that that's probably something we would talk about at the capital improvement committee. I'm not exactly sure the answer to that.
Okay, because CIP authorized monies for the roof replacement, but if we're getting money back from the state on a reimbursement on this, that should go back into CIP. It's taken the money. But that's something we could discuss at that meeting. Thank you.
Any more further questions on 13B? Seeing none, thank you. Moving on to 13C, discussion item authorizing the Public Building Commission to request quotes for the Park and Rec facility. Councilor Balboni.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before we begin to discuss it, I'd like to invite Mrs. Doherty up to the podium to give a little insight onto what we're talking about even. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Kathy Doherty, Public Building Commission.
Can you
I'm
pull
sorry,
down the mic just a little?
Councilor Balboni, I'm sorry, I didn't hear, I know I was called up here, but I'm not sure for, so.
Councilor Balboni? She's asking a question.
Oh, I thought we were going to discuss the possible costs involved with phase one of the initial plan.
Sure, well, as you know, we had requested that the Public Building Commission come before the council one more time. We were here in July where we had met the letter of the resolution that was passed September 2023, asking for the Public Building Commission to make sure that the needs of the Parks and Rec department are met and to find a location for them. So we did, that's what the Public Building Commission did. We met here in July of 2024 to give you our findings, to let you know that what we felt was appropriate was a three-phased approach. One is to take the existing Park and Rec building and to make it ADA compliant, and at the same time, the architect that we had hired for this, and please note, this is very important, that this is one architect's design. The numbers are very, very preliminary, but that they felt that the building could be retrofitted. It would need an elevator, but at the same time, the roof was shot. The boiler didn't have much of a life left onto it. The windows needed replacement. There were just a lot of things. It's an old building, and we all recognize that. But it could be done. In addition, the land could also house phase 2 and phase 3, which would be either a gymatorium or a pool. And we could do it out in phases instead of doing it all at one time. At that meeting, there was not a clear direction of what the council wanted from the Public Building Commission. There was a lot of discussion, but it's also a lot of money. So what's your pleasure? What we would like to do is to understand that the discussion item tonight is to request quotes for the Park and Rec facility. But what does that mean to the Public Building Commission? Quotes on what? We are going to have to find an architect, because the architect that we currently have is fantastic, don't get me wrong, but that was for an RFP that we put out, and that's how he was hired, as was our owner's rep. But if we're going to go further and we're going to have pictures made and we're going to get pricing on this, then we should put out another RFP and we should get multiple quotes from multiple architects, and to make sure this is done right and in the most cost-effective way. Now, if we were going to do the whole scope of the project, having been here since the inception of finding a Park and Rec facility with the past Park and Rec facility implementation committee, we did a whole bunch of work. We found out it was going to be $80 million to build a new building. There was no appetite for that, and we could clearly understand that. So now we are here. Are you looking for a price and for the Public Building Commission to create drawings for all three phases? Unless you're going to do it in the near future and putting it all out to referendum, to me, it's an effort in futility. It's a waste of time, and it's going to be meaningless because the numbers are going to be nothing. If you're not going to do it for 10 years, the money that was going to be asked for to build a building, that number is going to change. But more importantly, the codes change. And here's a for instance. There are buildings going on in surrounding towns that they had architects draw up right before COVID. COVID hit, everything stopped. They had to redraw them in 2021. They sat on the shelf. They're redrawing those now. So you didn't only pay for it right before COVID, you paid for it in the 2021, you had to tweak it. And now, because codes changed, it has to be redone. So we keep spending money. So we're looking to get, to understand what is the scope that you're looking for. If it's phase one, if it's phase one, which would be creating an ADA compliant building, doing the things that the architect, Mr. Akari, talked about, which was the roof, the windows, the fire, bringing it up to the fire code to make sure that there are enough alarms in there, stuff like that. All of those things for public safety and to not just, basically, put perfume on a go. You're going to really fix it up, not meet all the needs of the Parks and Rec, like make this room bigger or this room smaller, just the necessities. You're going to probably look at a figure of between $17 and $20 million. That's what you're looking at. That's to retrofit that building. Those are for construction costs. The Public Building Commission has not had an opportunity to discuss these things either. These are just the preliminary numbers. Our next meeting, we're looking to discuss it and to talk about what it is that the council wants us to do. So as a council, if you're thinking to yourself, I don't know, when I saw that number, I kind of swallowed hard and thought $17 to $20 million. Those are construction costs, not project costs. Because on top of that, you're going to do architectural fees, you're going to do owner's rep, you're going to have all of these other things that come into play. And if we were to do that, do you have an appetite to say, okay, we're going to put in a pool? And then if you're going to put in a pool, don't forget the pool that was designed and that was requested by the Park and Rec is the 100-meter pool. Do you need that really? Or are we going to go smaller with this? So we really need direction. Are we going to focus just on the existing building on Foster Street? And which also, by the way, includes, getting rid of the portable classrooms that are hanging on by a thread there, just to create safety. But I want to emphasize the fact that it does not include doing anything like, we're going to make this classroom a little bit bigger. That may be something that it's your pleasure. We can give you a price for all of that, or we can break it down. So we're just really looking for some guidance so we can move forward. And if so, it would be in the form, we would like it in the form of another resolution. We want to make sure that we are following the resolution as we did with the September 2023 one, to make sure that that approved resolution is being followed. We're not overstepping, but yet we're giving you exactly what you want.
That's Councilor Balboni. For a resolution, so.
You want me to read this whole thing?
Well, it's a draft resolution, so that's part of the discussion. So you can discuss the draft.
All right,
and
so
what you want to do.
I'm going to have to start with the assumption that we've all read it. What I had asked for, I sent to Mr. Maniscalco, that we wanted to bring the building into ADA compliance and fix the necessary issues with things like the roof, the HVAC, the windows, et cetera, that are building related, not program driven. Basically, the bulk of the resolution was from the original. So he said more to focus towards the end. And this phase one is really what I was looking for, including the work that needs to be done to bring the old Orchard Hill school site into ADA. End of life, mechanical, structural, and/or abatement issues. Again, phase 2 and 3, I'm not sure if we have the appetite for. I think my first question, which I'm unclear on, what is the dollar amount that needs to go to referendum? I know 17 to 20 definitely has to, but.
So I think typically what you would do to go to a referendum, you'd be looking for some type of a dollar amount that we would be issuing bonds for. So you want to have something of a significant value. Probably, I would guess, you know, we're talking $1 million plus, something to that effect. You know, sometimes we'll take some smaller projects, like if we have a few, like a fire engine or in a dump truck, we might, you know, put those together if we had a bonding authorization to bond those things. But you're really going to a referendum for a bond authorization to finance the project. So probably $1 million at the minimum.
So $1 million, so unless we split phase 1 into 20 phases, probably we're going to referendum.
You're going to referendum for phase 1 no matter what, yeah.
So what I was thinking is that, I'm pretty sure, I hope I don't speak for everybody, but I was thinking since we didn't do it with the fields, that we'd want to do it at a November election date that's already there, so we don't spend any extra money. So we'd be looking almost at November of next year to actually put this referendum out there. But what I would like to do is break phase 1 into different phases. If whatever architect we do hire can say, well, the first thing that needs to be done is the ADA. Second thing, the roof will last another 3 years, so put that one a little bit on the back burner, you know, let them tell us, obviously. I'm certainly not an architect. That's basically what I'm looking for. Anybody else have any ideas on that?
Counselor Pendleton?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm reading over, this is the resolution that you're proposing on how we handle, someone's proposing this resolution, on how we handle the phases, because the phases are all here at the end. I'm agreeing also that we need to make Old Orchard Hill ADA compliant, absolutely. The roof is 3 years to go on the roof? Oh, you just threw it out there? You don't know? We don't know?
No, no.
Do we know in CIP, Mr. Roberts? Old Orchard Hill roof, do we know how old that is? You, Mr. Maniscalco?
I'm fairly certain it's at its end of useful life at this point, so it needs to be replaced.
They said that at the meeting? At the last one? Okay.
There are issues with it. When Mr. Akari was here before, you know, he did talk about the significant issues on the roof.
Right, that maybe just doing it in bits and pieces, I see what you're saying, and maybe the roof can go to CIP, capital improvement, for next year, as one of the projects for next year, since all the school roofs are, our structures, our buildings are getting new roofs, so that can go to CIP. But the council has to approve the CIP and not cut it. Yeah, I'm huge on ADA. I've always been adamant about that, and even on capital improvement, I've always put that as number 1, and have a bucket, have it set aside that in capital, we meet the ADA requirements, we set money aside for it. So I'm all for that. And seeing what we do going forward, you know, I don't have a problem with getting numbers from someone on the ADA compliance of that building. However, the Public Building Commission would like to do that in the process that you guys take. But I'd really be interested in the ADA compliancy of it. So I don't know, I mean, removing, you know, phase 2 and 3 from this resolution, I'm thinking maybe a good idea, and just deal with the resolution with phase 1 and then use that same resolution for phase 2 and use that same resolution for phase 3. The identical when we go forward, and knowing that this would have to go to referendum, but I truly believe, I mean, to get numbers, to look at numbers, to listen to numbers, to see what encompasses on bringing this up to ADA compliant. Because I'm huge about that, huge. So that's kind of where I stand since this discussion item. So, thank you.
Councilor Carey?
I agree with Councilors Balboni and Pendleton. the one thing I do think is we should get specific breakdown of each of the different things for ADA. Like, I don't know if the bathrooms are ADA compliant, or do we need a new bathroom, just like we just had to put one here in the town center? Is it just the elevator? So like being very specific, including removing the portable classrooms, the fire code. So the specific items, some of which are listed in phase 1, but others are not. So we might want to amend the wording so that we, bullet out what exactly it is we want the building commission to work on.
Do we have to say, because it says ADA compliance, do we have to break it down, elevator, bathrooms, and that thing, or does the ADA compliance encompass
I
the
think
whole
it
thing?
covers that. That being said, what I really think we should do, and I do have just kind of a little bit of a question for Ms. Doherty. You mentioned getting drawings, and I think there's different levels of drawings that architects will do as your projects progress. Currently we've essentially hired Tom Arcari to do a programming study. That's your first, crack at the whole project, which gives you kind of the idea, does our program actually fit within that building, and what does it kind of look like, big picture? Really, the next step is to not do drawings that we would go to construction with, but to do kind of design development, which is, let's get a price for what this looks like and see a little bit further, we get a little bit of a clearer look at actually what's going to happen. The next step after that would actually be your doing construction drawings, which would then be what you go out to RFP with for construction and actually doing that sort of thing. So I think, we don't want to go all the way to the construction drawings, certainly, because those aren't going to be worth a hill of beans by the time we actually get to building something. But I do think at this red hot moment, we want to do design development. And I think that's what you were referring to. Am I correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to get an idea from the council, like what I'm hearing, I'd like to see in a resolution. So what I'm hearing you say is that you would like to see it brought up to ADA compliance. So what you're looking for from us is in the costs associated with that. Well, we all know it's an elevator. In addition, there would be bathrooms associated with that. So what are the costs of doing each thing? So there would be almost a line item of each thing, but all of these things are needed to meet the codes of 2024, 2025, as much as we can see out. And then what I'm also hearing is that in addition, what is it that we can create, what is it that is needed to make sure that this building is safe, and to make sure and I don't want to give anybody the impression it's not safe, but how do we, make sure that the fire is up to code? That's not ADA, but it is a code, and bring it up to code with the fire, as well as making sure that what is the roof the roof life, and what would be the cost of replacing it, the windows, why do they have to be replaced, and what would be the cost? These are all things that we're told, that we know from the Public Building Commission, that were things that were going to be looked at. So what I'm hearing is there's an appetite for phase to focus on the existing building and making it meet the safety and the code needs, not making it programmatic need, the programmatic needs of the Park and Rec Department, not bringing it to that level, which were things that were talked about at the last, like, we're going to change this room to a dance room, we're going to change this. That's not what we would be doing. We would just be doing the ADA. That's what I'm hearing.
Right, because the draft resolution does state, with all the whereases, each phase shall include a scope of work and cost estimate, and then phase 1 shall include the work that needs to be done to bring Old Orchard Hill into ADA compliance, which we know it encompasses bathrooms, elevator. Any other maintenance, end-of-life mechanical, the boiler, to me, and structural and or abatement, to me, is the
next
portables
right.
and roof.
The only other thing I think you need to add to this would be code compliance issues. Because as Ms.
So
Doherty
after
was talking,
abatements
I think-
issues, put code compliance?
Yeah, and code compliance issues, just in the off chance.
Councilor Lewis?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's nice to have things spelled out in writing, but we would think there would be some logic in the process to where if the building is going to be used for something, the purpose would be in mind, that we're not going to be focused on the program of the building, but that it is going to be used for these things, so you do things with that in mind, and how you build or construct things or move things around as far as location of sockets in the walls are going to be according to what you're going to, the use of the room is going to be for. So I'd like it to be done sensibly. We can restrict it so much with words and say this is all we want, but let's keep the big picture in mind too, right?
I do understand what you're saying, and that's why I want a resolution, because the last time we were here, it was, there was a discussion as to whether or not we followed, or we were overstepping, or we followed the resolution. So tell us what you want. We'll follow it. We will do it. But I'm not going to go, you're talking about something that would be monumentally cost. You have to remember that building right there is, I don't even want to say, because I went to school there, okay? I went to kindergarten, well, no, I didn't. I went to kindergarten church. I went to first grade there. And I'm here to tell you that that building will not handle the infrastructure with all the technology based on today. So when we were doing the elementary schools and bringing those buildings that are about the same age up to technology as required today, that's a huge financial undertaking. And if you want us to look at the outlets and decide how we're going to get the new wires in through the walls, that's big. That's not bringing this up to ADA compliance. That is huge financial. And if that's what you want, we'll give it to you. But if you are looking at the pennies to save the dollars, to save the tens of dollars, the hundreds, the thousands, the tens of thousands, if you're looking at that, you got to start with somewhere. And it's, you know, and if it's ADA, that's what the focus has got to be, the ADA and the end-of-life infrastructure. We know that that is going to be the home of Park and Recs, at least for the next 20 years. I mean, let's face, where we are. It's got to be. It's got to be where we are. So will there be continuing improvements to that building? I'm sure there will. But we've got to start somewhere, and we've got to start at a place that, you know, where the council is willing to bite the financial apple.
May I continue?
Sure can.
Thank you. It's a big nut to swallow. It's huge, and I think it's not that we don't have the appetite, which many of us don't. It's the town, which it's a lot of money. I remember when, if those remember years ago, when on the corner of Avery Street and Beelzebub, Avery Street Church burnt down. It was less expensive to build brand new than it was to renovate. But there you had insurances involved and what like that. But oftentimes, it's less expensive to knock it down and build new than it is to fix what's there. And have we looked at that? And because we heard that initial number, $80 million, everyone's just scared to look at it. But we have a responsibility to the citizens of this town to explore every viable option and to try and make the best decision to get the biggest bang out of the dollar we spend. And I understand that your commission needs specifics from us. And I want to be big picture and specific at the same time. It's not an easy task. Have we looked at, other than just visiting other towns and Newtown and things like that, and heard big dollar figures and $80 million, $90 million, and every day things are getting more expensive out there. But what's the difference of new construction? I mean, have we considered knocking down that building and building right there? It's a good site. With all the fields, it's a good site to have a place there. So I'm not sure I'm ready to just say, let's spend money on phase one, or let's, I mean, I agree with the Councilor Balboni and Pendleton with regard to ADA is important. But good money after bad. How much are we going to spend before we find out, gee, we should have just knocked it down and rebuilt? I don't know. Is that a fair question?
Councilor King? Councilor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the only thing that I really latched on to was, if you're speaking for the PBC, that you've already made the decision that we're not knocking it down. You guys have had the discussion, the decision's been made.
Well, we felt like, well, we did get a cost of what it would be to build a building, and it was 70 to 90 million, so we just jumped on the 80 million, okay? And that did include the pool, it did include the gym, a new gym, it included everything.
Include the sun, moon, and stars. I got it. So another assumption, not to cut you off, but
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm dealing with all, is another assumption that was made that we could not get any type of grant or funding for any of this. Is that another assumption that the PBC made? That it was purely going to come from the taxpayers of South Windsor?
What we did know is that it was not reimbursable by the state. If there are grants out there, we don't know of them. That would be a town side issue, wouldn't be a Public Building Commission issue. But we do know it's not reimbursable by the state.
Okay, so that, again, so that's an assumption that was made, that it would come solely unless the town found grants, which we do know that towns can find grants. So I say all that to say that I agree with the phase one piece, but at the same time, and I go back to a time when being broke is a joke, but still going to build a house and then saying, okay, we can't afford central air at the time, but I know if we wait and we don't plan for central air, it's probably going to cost us more for them to go in, get the vents, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So to Councilor Lewis's point, I would prefer to see, and maybe I missed it, and if I did, I apologize. I would prefer to see, again, the sun, moon, and the stars dollars, and then say, okay, what grants might be available? If we're not voting on this, if I heard you, Councilor Balboni, correct, or putting this to referendum or whatever until 2025, that still gives us time to say, okay, if we want to really do this, again, going back to my example about putting the HVAC system, central air system, in a house that's being newly built, as opposed to building thinking, oh my God, I can't afford that right now, we might be cutting off our nose to spite our face. And I would rather scale back than, but again, keep the ADA, but I'd rather scale back than get a number that's too low. And then again, to Councilor Lewis's point, and to yours, you know, yeah, now all of a sudden we have to put wires in because a new code has changed. And while, and the thing about it is, and while, and I appreciate you saying it might not have been palatable to either the council or to the town, I think that if we think futuristically with foresight saying, okay, we may need to do this, I'd rather see those numbers now, and that gives the town time as well as the committee time to say, okay, there are grants for this, there are grants for that. We know that West Hartford got a grant to fix their HVAC systems for their schools because the schools were old. I'm sure that we can find grants to bring this up to code or whatever we need to, but we probably need those numbers because that's probably going to be the first question that we get asked, right? You know, first is does the town support it, and then so on and so forth. So while I have no problem with the resolutions just saying, you know, the phase one piece, I do have to agree with Councilor Lewis that I'd rather have the sun, moon, and stars number and then scale back as opposed to saying, oh man, you guys could have got that money and we didn't even go for it. It's just my thought.
Councilor Carey?
So I think that one of the things, beyond, if we go beyond ADA, then I think we need to define what we mean by sun, moon, and stars. Because if we remember that presentation, there was two atriums for the elevator, right? One included a cafe and, you know, was much bigger. So, I mean, one of the things I do think we probably need to do is look hard at the presentation and what was shared and say, you know, or maybe we have a public hearing and get the residents to say, but I do think we need to understand, you know, well, I want a price on this, and we can't a la carte everything or every version of everything. So somehow we have to carve into, you know, what are the other things that we're thinking of from that presentation, and then, you know, that should be included, or do we do a public hearing and have the residents share that? The one, and I agree, I always worry about this stuff, so I'm gonna apologize ahead of time, but, you know, 2031, our first big bond begins to get paid off. Till then, if you remember at the quad board meeting, our debt's going like this, so, you know, and we also know that there is a chance we're gonna need capital improvements potentially for the schools, depending on what happens a little bit. I don't mean big, but TE and high school. So, you know, when we're talking to sun, moon, and stars, I think we need to define that, and or get the town to help us define it. But, you know, I don't think we have to, but in order to get a price, I think it's a good idea to say we want a price on A, B, C, D. Let's be really specific. Because otherwise it's too hard for the building commission to figure out, well, what did we mean?
Right. If you guys don't mind if I can respond to that.
Sure,
Just
go
for
ahead.
just for clarity's sake, 'cause again, I don't want to belabor the point. I do remember we got the 1, 2, or 3 other diagrams and all that. What did each one of them cost? That's all I'm saying. What did each one of them cost? We put that out for the public to say, nope, 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 yes, yes, yes. And then we go after the grant. Because I don't remember there being numbers for each one of those, were there?
No, I think that's the reason for, in this draft, the phase 1, which is the ADA, phase 2 is the gymnasium. So I think
I see.
that's where we were breaking it out.
I see.
I think that's your sun, moon, and stars.
Yes, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying what I want. I'm saying the work you've already done. The work you've already done. You don't need to do any more work. What is this gonna cost? Because I remember seeing something that had a very beautiful picture on it, and then I was like, oh, what's this? Oh, this is another picture of something else that it could look like. It's just like a house. Either you can or you can't. And then you go to the basement and say, oh, shoot, did anybody think to put plugs in the basement? Most people don't. You know, and then all of a sudden they're going into, no, so that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying rewrite the script. No, I'm saying just give me the numbers on what the work that they've already done.
What they showed us at the
Exactly, just give me the
July.
numbers for those. This is what this is gonna cost if we do it like this. This is what this is gonna cost if we put the pool in. This is what this is gonna cost if we do the gymnasium. And then we go from there. But I don't want us to shortchange ourselves, I guess is my bottom line point, is to only focus on one thing when we might have been able to get more money, perhaps, because I believe in grants. So hopefully that cleared up what I was meaning.
Actually, I got more confused because that brings us to phase 2 and 3. I apologize, but I do think we should focus on phase 1, because when we start talking about, like, say, the pool that we saw was a pool with a diving pool with a play pool. Now, you know, what people really seem to want is a pool. So, again, do you really want to price all these things, or do you want to price? You have to define, I think you have to define what you want to price, because it's going to cost you money to get architecture drawings enough to get the price.
But didn't they, and I'm sorry, I don't have them, but didn't we get that? So we've never gotten a plan with, what was all them fancy pictures I saw? Yeah, so what's the cost of the concept? Go for that. Like, what was the work that y'all did? Like, what did y'all meet for then? You met, you said, okay, here's the drawing of the water bottle. Bet, give me the cost of what that water bottle cost. Like, I'm not saying you gotta go back and give me the cost of all this. I don't care about this, just give me the cost of the bottle. You had 3 bottles. I remember those pictures. I was sitting on my couch saying, oh, okay, this looks good. Oh, shoot, this one has a pool. Oh, shoot, this one has a basketball court. Boom, 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 3 prices. That's all I'm saying.
Do you want to respond, Councilor Curie?
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I guess my point is that we are not there yet. We have to pay somebody to get us the next phase of the drawings. And so before you get to that level, and since phase 2 and phase 3 are probably a little bit down the pike, and you could end up paying somebody to do that level of drawing and then having to have it redone in 2 years when we're ready to move that way. You know, the focus would be do phase 1. And I understood what you said about phase 1, that you know, what was the cafe cost versus not the cafe. But I think we have to just focus on phase 1 initially. But maybe not.
So then the final thing that I'll say, and then I'll just leave it, is, so say for example, we do what we've suggested, or what has been suggested for phase 1, and we do the ADA compliance. And then we wait for phase 2 and phase 3, whether that's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road. And then we have to go back because there's now new ADA compliance issues. Could not we have solved that in the beginning? Like, wouldn't we have gotten the money? I guess that's my primary concern. And again, I just use the example of my own. I hear what you're saying. I just don't want to leave any money on the table because of fear.
Can I just respond? When you're building new, it's totally different than when you are doing a renovation, even if you renovate as new. So when your building is new, there's a whole list of things that have to be done, and the plugs have to be this high, and this has to be over here, and this, whatever. There's a whole list of things that need to be done. But when you are renovating, there are things that are, quote, like kind of forgiven because you are renovating. And my point to Councilor Lewis was this. Of course, when you are building, to your point, and I don't mean this disrespectfully in any way, but when you're building a new house and you're like, okay, we're gonna put the ducts in here for an HVAC system or something like that, that makes a lot of sense. But now take your scenario and flip it over, flip that pancake over for a second and say you have an existing house. And in that existing house, you are going to renovate. You got to move some walls around, and you got more kids come in, and you just got to fix things up. And you really would like an HVAC system in there because our summers get hot. You're looking at it from a different standpoint. You need the walls. If you're going to be breaking down the walls, well, it's a really great idea to put the infrastructure in there then. But I'm not hearing we're breaking down walls in phase 1. I'm hearing that we are simply bringing it to code and we're fixing the necessities, is what I'm hearing. If you were saying, listen, Public Building Commission, we want you to go in there and renovate as new. We want a price for you to renovate as new. And we do have plenty of room, very similar to Eli Terry. When we did Eli Terry, we built a school with that school sitting there on that site. We could do the same thing with Parks and Rec. It has plenty of room there. And in one of the drawings, it showed that this building could go here. We could knock it down. We could build and then knock it down. There's many, many options. It just depends on what is it that you want to spend now. And the now part is, to Councilor Pendleton's point, the ADA compliance. It is very important. I've heard it from every single person here. And the building, for a large portion of that building, is ADA compliant, meaning you can get into that lower, there's a door. We did it when my kids were in school, before it turned into the other schools. When they were in Orchard Hills School, and you could get to the lower level. You could get to the main level. You couldn't get upstairs. But they don't use upstairs at all. So it's a section of the building that is not used because of that. And there's a section of that building that could be used for programmatic needs if we had an elevator. So an elevator is a necessity. Do we have to build an atrium that looks like the Taj Mahal? And I'm not saying it did in the picture. No, we could scale it down. We could do whatever's within your affordability. And, as a person that had to do my kitchen over, there was a lot of things that were on my want list. And then I had to decide what my pocketbook was going to do. And that's basically what we're asking from the council. Just give us direction as to what you feel that you're willing to look for grants for. I'm really not familiar with, I mean, I know about grants, but I'm not familiar with what they're offered. And if there is a grant program, by gosh, we should be stepping up and trying to get it, for sure. I agree with that 100%.
Councilor Balboni?
I basically just wanted to say that Phase 1, the reason why I'm against what you're saying is because what they did is they did all the programmatic stuff as well, like changing the preschool and putting the extra playscape here, and putting the extra parking lot in the back, and doing this, that, and the other thing. And what we're trying to tell them is to not do that. Just the stuff that needs to be done so that that building can be used to its fullest and get rid of the stuff that's outdated or at its end of life. I mean, if it needs the ADA compliance, we all seem to agree on that. They're saying that the boiler is done. So is it done today? Is it done in 3 years? So what I was looking for is just a step-by-step approach to spend as little as possible over time, as opposed to dumping $80 million anywhere right now, especially if it's not reimbursable. That's all.
Councilor Pendleton?
Oh, thank you so much.
I finally got to
I've been sitting patiently waiting, writing notes. Couple of things on the back page of this draft resolution, the word committee needs to be changed to commission. On that page, it's 1, 2, 3, where it says now therefore be it resolved. That has to be fixed to commission instead of committee, Public Building Commission. Also, reading this resolution, it says, whereas the Public Building Commission provided a report identifying a site and building location for the Parks and Recreation Department offices to the town on July 15th, 2020. 2024, sorry. So, and then I'm sitting here listening and I'm going, wait, there was a report given on various things that could be done on that property up at Old Orchard Hill. That's the location that the Public Building Commission has decided upon, is to work with the Old Orchard Hill location? Is that in the report that states that the Public Building Commission is recommending to the council?
Yes, that's why we brought that report here.
Okay.
With all with how things would be placed and how they could be, well, there was several different ideas on how everything could be placed on that property. So to show you there were different layouts, but it would all fit, and that's the recommendation of the Public Building Commission, yes.
Okay, and is there a reason why that it wasn't chosen to be placed into Nevers Park near the community center?
Yeah, there were a lot of reasons, and cost was one of them, number one. Number two, that location in and of itself has gone to referendum quite a few times, and it has failed every time. And people don't want it there. And it would displace some of the things that are there currently. And this would also, with the pool, we have 2 campuses that could use the pool, both Orchard Hill and Timothy Edwards. It would have less blacktop area, meaning that once the idea would be to go to planning and zoning and be able to use the current parking areas that are located at Orchard Hill School and Timothy Edwards, which would allow more green space, more fields, and not have everything be paved. And so there were a lot of aesthetic reasons, financial reasons, and also to be good neighbors. You know, the location that is there with Timothy Edwards, Orchard Hill, now the Park and Rec, which also includes a preschool program and camp there, it would be an incredible complex, and we're thinking complex. Also for the high school to be able to use it as a swim team, you know, transportation buses go from the high school directly to Timothy Edwards, where this would be adjacent to. So there are many, many, many positive for having that as a location.
Okay, well, that's one of the things that I think is important, because you know, we may be talking about ADA right now, but this council has not decided on a location. We were presented a report and we haven't even gotten that far to have a conversation. And this resolution talks about what we've charged the Planning and Zoning, the Public Building Commission with. They presented their site recommendation. This council has not decided on Old Orchard Hill to be the location. We haven't even had that discussion as of yet. And I understand bringing it up to code. I get that. That's real important. So I've just wrote a few things down as far as that's concerned. You said Park and Rec is going to be there for another 20 years. That's what you just said.
You're right. I just threw that out. But,
Okay.
but you know what? I think that we need to call a spade a shovel here, because the fact is that when I watched your quad meeting and saw the trajectory of the debt, we're in dire. We have a lot of money out there. We just built 4 brand new elementary schools, and again, you know, where are these kids going? To Timothy Edwards, to the high school. We've got to think globally, and where are we? And you know, so for me, just for me personally, I feel like when I sat on the Park and Rec, the first debunked committee, it was said if we go to the Old Orchard Hill, nobody wanted to go there because if you go in there, you're going to stay in there. And we all agreed that if you go in there, you were there, Mike, when we said it. If you go in there, you're going to stay in there. And, you know, minimally, if you approve this tonight, before a shovel hits the ground, it's going to be 4 years anyway, and 2 years to build. It's 6 years right there.
No, I don't think this is going on the resolution to be approved tonight.
No, it's not.
No,
Liz,
we have plenty of time. We have plenty of time.
Right, exactly, but I'm just using that as an example
Right.
that if you were to approve it tonight, it's 6 years before the building is, you know, it takes 2 years to build, and then all the plans and all the going to
Correct, so we
referendum,
won't
blah, blah,
have to
blah.
pay the bond and we won't have to pay the money until after 2031 because it doesn't get issued until we start using it. Is that correct, Mr. Maniscalco? Which would be after 2031.
Well, so our finance director and myself would probably look at putting together some type of financial plan as to how it would all fit together. You know, we'd have to take into account, you know, current rates as well as, or rates at that time, as well as, you know, what other bond issues we have and other things that are coming due. So there's a whole laundry list of variables involved, but it certainly would be pushed out.
Right, this is definitely a long forecasted, not 3 years down the road, not when our, you know, we're paying for the schools and everything else. It's going to be farther out into the...
Sure.
Okay. So with that said, so in what is the cost of demolish and build new? Do we know that answer?
Cost of what?
Demolish the building and build new?
No.
We don't know that answer.
No.
Oh.
As I said to you when I first came up here, I said, we have just received an email. We haven't even discussed it yet. And we were talking about bringing this building up to ADA compliance, which would include the bathrooms, the fire, the elevator, the windows, the HVAC system, the boiler, things that need to be done. And we're throwing a dart at the wall going $17 to $20 million. And I said very clearly that this was all very, very, very preliminary. That's construction costs only. So if you want us to give you a price about demolishing and building is new, put it in a resolution, we'll get that for you. But also keep in mind that we are going to, that is far from the scope of what we've already paid Mr. Arcari for and Mr. Warrington for. So there's going to be more money needed in order to get these funds, in order to get these numbers. So we have to, you know, they just don't work for free like you all do.
The resolution, the original resolution was asking for a site from the Public Building Commission. That's what we asked for.
And we did that. We said the Old Orchard Hill.
Okay. So now with that said, if we go into step one of if we all agree on Old Orchard Hill, which we have not, because there's still other questions on there, what would it cost to demolish this and build new? there's other questions out there. And that gentleman that was with you the last time said, I can get you numbers the next time, I can get you numbers. So having more numbers before we even talk about any of this, having more numbers would be great. So that was on here. It's, you know, demolish, build new instead of renovate.
But if I could just.
We didn't have a
just
public, wait.
I want to understand something.
I might want to excuse you here because you haven't spoken to your commission yet, and you're standing up here speaking on their behalf, and you said that you just got an email. So some of the information that you're giving us hasn't been shared with your commission, and this is a discussion item, and I think the council really needs to be discussing this. I would hate for you to.
That's fine, but just to let you know, I'm here on behalf of, I was asked to be here, and I was given this information to make sure I shared with you. So this came bipartisan from our chairman, Mr. Montana, and in talking with, so, but believe me, I'd be happy to be excused.
I mean, I don't know what information you were given. Is it the same information that we're looking at here this evening, or does she have different information than we do?
No, this is from our commission. This is from Public Building Commission.
Oh, I see.
And the only thing is as I said, we, as a Public Building Commission, came up with what we were asked to do, which was find a location. Our recommendation is Old Orchard Hill. Now, it doesn't matter if we going to knock down that building and, you know, build it on Rye Street. It's still going to be the same. The cost is going to be the same if you want us to knock it down, or if we leave it there. Building the building to that specification, it's gonna be the same cost. So if you want those costs, put it in a resolution.
I also think that the residents have a right to hear everything and make a choice because they're going to be paying for this.
Sure.
So before we decide to do anything on location, I think they have a right to choose on where it should go, on what is being asked for, because I don't see it written. I mean, you gave a report with a pool and this and that and everything else, but I've received a lot of emails. A lot of people are stating to me that they don't want it at Old Orchard Hill. They think it would be better in Nevers. I received all those emails after our last meeting. So I know the residents have a lot to say about this. So before we even make a decision on anything, on where it goes, I think we should have a public hearing and give them an option and a choice, because we make the decisions on the betterment of our community, not on our personal decisions. I also understand that we make a decision based off of finances and what would be the most practical financially, but we can't make a decision without numbers. So to find out what the ADA would cost, to find out what demolishing would cost, to find out what a new build would cost, that would be great for us to have all that information before we make a decision.
Yeah.
I'd appreciate that.
And I 100% agree, so put it in a resolution and we will make it happen.
We don't need to put our request to public. Mr. Town Attorney, do we need to put our request to the Public Building Commission in a resolution asking them for the financial? Does it need to be a resolution, or does it just need to be a verbal request?
I think you should put it in the form of a resolution at some point. Doesn't necessarily have to be tonight, but I think it's better in writing.
Okay, all right. So would it be best if we send you our requests, what we're looking for in that resolution? Like if we all submit our request to the town attorney and he can write up a draft resolution and send it back to us of what we're looking for? Each one of us may be looking for something different. I'm looking for the cost of the demolishing and compared to build new. What would it cost for, you know, the ADA? What would it cost for building there and renovating Old Orchard Hill as opposed to going to Nevers? Like, we don't even know. I don't know how we can make a decision without that information. So I think we need to direct the Public Building Commission to gather all that financials information and bring it back to us before we move forward with anything.
That makes sense, especially if they're not looking to go to referendum until next November anyway.
Correct. There is no rush on this. Correct. Would that be okay if we could send our suggestions to you?
You're welcome to do that. I think it'd be a little bit more efficient if you guys discuss what you want to have set up. I know you guys are talking about it tonight. I've been taking some notes. I can compare something certainly, but I'm hearing different things from different people.
Correct.
So I'll draft up, you know, what the consensus of the commission is, of the town council is.
Well, and I think
but if you can reach a consensus, and if not, you'll have probably a list of items to choose from.
Right. I think we all have something different, and even if we did have something different, the Public Building Commission can get us and the citizens, the residents of South Windsor, those numbers to help them decide what they would like to do. We should look at everything. So I'm sure we all have, that's why I'm saying we need to talk amongst us to figure out what we're doing before we can do any, do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not.
Absolutely. My reason for being here, that I was sent here for, is to get an understanding of what you want us to do and put it in writing, and we will follow it. Whatever you want, we will make sure we follow it.
Thank you. So if we could move on to our discussion on what we'd like to see in the resolution from our town attorney concerning this before we move forward with anything, I think is important. One of them, what would the ADA cost? That's what you initially had.
For the phase one, right.
What would the ADA cost, the mechanical and the infrastructure of the building?
And then how much would it cost to demolish?
Correct.
And build new?
Correct.
And pick a location. Do we want to keep current location or, like you say, a public hearing?
Right. Are you taking all this down? But
I'm trying to follow, but I'll be honest with you. I think so far I've gotten a lot of different views here. I've got ADA compliance, code compliance issues, design drawings, and a report to the town council regarding cost of demolition.
demolition and build new, and then even location, on the practicality of location. Should it be there or should it be at Nevers? Like, we don't know that, and that was never discussed with us when they came in. What do our people of our community want? Like, what would the cost of that be? Is it even possible? I don't know.
Like demolition, like keep it at Orchard Hill location, like they did Eli Terry, building Eli Terry on site.
Or demolishing it and going, or not even demolishing it, but just building new at Nevers Road, yes. Yes. Because we have not decided here, and as I said, residents have contacted me and said they don't want it at Orchard Hill. They'd rather have it across from the high school on Nevers. I've received a lot of letters. Before we even move on to do anything, I think we just need to take everything into consideration and look at the highlights of the whole thing like we just discussed. With the mechanical, the structural, and the ADA compliant, demolish and build new, different locations, because they gave us the recommendation, but what if there's another location, and why they said not Nevers, I don't know what. So.
Councilor Balboni?
So while we're at it and you're taking things down, I'd like a roller coaster and one of them slingshot rides while we're at it.
Okay, Councilor Balboni?
Sorry.
This is an important one.
Councilor Carey?
So one of the things in that type of resolution we're going to have to include is authorization for money, because all of these things will cost money. So we will need to authorize some additional funds. I don't know what they are, but we would definitely have to authorize some funds.
Councilor Lewis?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I thought we had seen proposals of sites and that we had narrowed down that the Orchard Hill area made the most sense because of parking. So the Priest property was out of the thing because of the state and because of how you could build roads, and Nevers had other issues with it, as Mrs. Doherty had mentioned, along with the fact that we've historically had many RFPs there before for that property, and it would change the use of that property right now. So to me, it seemed like the Orchard Hill property made sense. I'm unaware, I've not received anything as far as citizens saying that they don't like that site. Our task as councilors is to try and make the best, most informed decision for the public, not to do what the public wants per se, but to make the best decision for them financially, ergonomically, and for the future of our kids, right? So we're in agreement there. What we need is we need something safe, we need something practical. What I don't understand is why do we have to pay everybody money to find out information? I've been in business my whole life, and when I go to get business, I offer up services kind of for free to get the business, right? I'm going to send you a proposal so I can get the business. I'm not gonna charge you for the proposal. So I don't get why we have to pay all these designers. We do an RFP, we say, if you want our business, do this bid, and we'll take the best one. The best project, the best proposal, we'll take it. Let's do an RFP for a plan for our facility and see what the best minds can get around the area that want to do the RFP, who are qualified to do that. That's what we should do. If we want information and not pay for it, the best way to do it is put out to RFP to qualified firms. That's what I would recommend.
Counselor Fitzgerald.
The only problem with that, though, if you put something out for an RFP, you're soliciting someone's services. They're going to want to get paid for their services. So it is in government. It is how it works.
Any, Counselor King?
The only thing I was going to say is this is a discussion item. This isn't a vote on now item.
Right.
This isn't, right. However, I mean, but I think we've now discussed it ad nauseum. And I think that at this particular point, even to Councilor Balboni's frustration, which I understand completely, because he knows I don't like to do redundant work either, but it sounded like it needed direction, period. That's what it sounded like it needed from Ms. Cathy, that we just want to know what you are asking us to do so that when we do it and bring it back to you, that you're not sending us back to the lab again, if I understood that correctly. That being said, and we've done this in the past, where we've taken our individual and we've sent them to whomever, again, we're just having a discussion, and then we put it back together, and then we discuss
The new draft.
the
right.
new draft, exactly. And yes, it might, hey, this is what we ran for. You know, whether we thought this is what we ran for or not, but in terms of, that's why it's a discussion item. I suggest that that's what we do. We've done it before in the past where we've come with different ideas and sent it to, because I was going to send it to Councilor Balboni, since he's the one that wanted to have a discussion item. And then he says, hey, based on this, because then he's the one that's working directly with the town attorney, and that's it. So we don't have a whole bunch of chefs in the kitchen. That's my suggestion, is that, and then we have it to him, we got 2 weeks to do it. Be on our next agenda meeting. Everybody needs to have it in, and by that point, you either put up or shut up. And then we have a discussion based on that.
On the new one, and then if we
Yes,
talk
based on
more,
everybody for
then
the
it could
next 2
come back
weeks.
again.
And
I
then
mean,
that's it. It could, but I would hope that we would be responsible enough to put all of our suggestions in, one point of contact, Councilor Balboni sends it to the attorney, he brings it back based on everybody's thoughts, and then that's it. You know? So that's, you know, that way we're not, again, keeping this ball rolling, because we're not going to make a decision tonight.
Right.
I think we've come to that point. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes absolute, can I? Yes.
Mr. Pendleton?
Thank you. Yes, Mayor Kristen. Yes, that makes absolute sense. Are you willing to receive everyone's suggestions? Okay. And put it into a resolution, or work with the town attorney on a resolution?
Or work with the town manager first, right? Wouldn't that be?
Yeah, send it to the town manager, and then he can send it off. And then we would need a public hearing also on the, would we need a public hearing on that resolution on what we're requesting from the Public Building Commission? No? No.
You don't need a time, yeah. Don't need-
Correct, okay. But afterwards, when we make a decision, that would be a good time to have a public hearing.
Yeah, the Public Building Commission has a number of powers and duties, all right? And I'm going to read to you what they have the power and duties to do and what you have the power and duty to do. Importantly, study sites and building locations for such public buildings as may be proposed by other branches of the town government, and shall, in cooperation with the Town Planning and Zoning Commission, recommend appropriate sites to the council. That's number one, okay? They need to recommend an appropriate site to you in conjunction with Planning and Zoning. Planning and Zoning already did their 824 review of Orchard Hill. So it's up to you to decide if that's appropriate at this point, okay? So that's resolution number one. Resolution number two is about the scope of the service, about the scope of the appropriations. As deemed necessary, recommend to the council appropriations for each building project, in whole or in part, for action by the council, and shall be bound by the appropriations so made. So they need to provide to you exactly what you're talking about, a laundry list of expenses associated with the building projects, in whole or in part, as you direct them, and as they'll come back to you for decision. So we can work together.
That's great.
Councilor Balboni about these two resolutions, one about approving the site and one about the scope of appropriations for the building project improvements.
Sounds good.
Good? Two resolutions.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I can just, Councilor Balboni, just look at your calendar. Would you suggest that you would like to have it by, would have to be, well, we know we're already going to do it, so it's going to be on our agenda. What would be the best time that you would need to have it by in order to send it through the town manager and a month?
So you don't want to have it up again on the next agenda, next meeting, the second meeting, or you want to wait till November?
Well, we could have it for the second one and then also on the
But
November one. So the draft resolution will be coming back at the second meeting of
which would be the 21st?
Would be the 21st, exactly. So I'm saying to you, Councilor Balboni, is that okay if we have everything to you by the 14th or the 15th? Because we're doing the resolution anyway.
So the agenda meeting will be on the 15th.
Okay.
We're going to have the agenda meeting in the morning on the 15th, and I have to talk to the town attorney. If you get it to me on the 14th, how am I going to have that? That's impossible.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. So what would, for you,
If,
so you would say almost by, so you would like to have it by Saturday?
If we want it on the agenda, or ready for the agenda meeting, the draft, I would say I'd have to have it by the end of the week, yeah.
So if that's the case, and that might be a little difficult, is that a problem to push it out? So we're talking about the 4th of November, right? So.
Are we having a meeting the 4th of November?
Oh, we don't, my fault.
Well, we haven't
No, we don't.
canceled that yet. It's still on the calendar.
Okay, yeah, we usually, yeah. That's why you said the second week. Okay, that's why you said the 18th. Right?
November, is that what it is?
Yes, November.
November 18th? That way you're not rushing and
I'm
having
not
to
rushing
discuss.
at all.
Right, that's why I'm asking. I just want to make sure that we're all,
Also give the town attorney time to write something up too.
That way
Say
it's
get
nice
it-
and clear and.
I would say get it to me by the 4th of November.
boom,
Their way, I get a week to get it together for you guys for your agenda meeting,
right,
and then we have it ready for the 18th.
okay. I just wanted to make sure to ask that, just so our minutes reflect that. So everybody has to have it in by the November 4th.
November 4th?
Thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councilor
Kathy,
Pemberton.
if you could just send a note to all of us to have our answers to the town manager by the 4th of November. Thank you.
Are we good? All right. Moving on to 13C, 13D. Process for removal of boarding commission member, Councilor King.
Yeah, so the only reason that this came up is that we know from past experience, fortunately or unfortunately, that we have people that may or may not show up to our different meetings, and there's no way to say, okay, you haven't shown up, we need to put somebody else in there. So this is basically up for discussion item, just in saying that, hey, as it's written, 3 consecutive absences. I like how this has been brought up. You were appointed, you haven't been, we're going to take you off. And it comes to the town council for those reasons. Now, if somebody needs to say why they have or haven't, okay, that's fine, but, you know, this way we can make those decisions to take those individuals off, you know, based on their non-participation, so that these different commissions continue to move forward.
Okay, and I was looking at the draft. It should say 3, because section 502B in the charter, it says 3 consecutive months.
Okay.
It does not say meetings, so
Okay.
Meetings, so that we need to change meetings to months. So if you have like inland wetlands meets
Right.
twice a month, so that's going to be 3 months, it's not 3 meetings.
Okay.
So that would have to be the change, 3 consecutive months. That's the only thing I found on the letter to go out to say you haven't resigned, so we're pushing you off, basically, but. Counselor Carey?
And I would recommend that, you know, the draft letter, you use a fake name, like, you know.
Yes, agreed. Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is a public document, and this is an actual resolution letter that did go out to Mr. Caballero. So these are an actual resolution letter. But I'm just stating that's what it is. So it's a public document, so it's not anything, information that's going out there.
Generally, it's just a good idea.
I know, but I'm just stating it's a public document. Counselor Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this makes a lot of sense. We need to empower the committees to do that. However, I don't think it should be our decision to kick somebody off or not. It should be a policy that we have, that we enforce, and that hopefully before that happened, the chairperson of said committee would give them a call and say, hey, look, according to policy, it looks like you'd be off the committee. Are you okay with that? What's going on? And see if there's any exceptional reasons why they say, no, I'm so sorry, I'll be back next month, or, you know. I agree. But we need to empower our committees, and we also need to get committees represented. So I agree with this, and I will vote for it.
Yeah, and that's why there's that 3 months. That way, it gives somebody a chance, and if they don't respond to any correspondence, that's where we get into it. Counselor Pendleton?
I just wanted to point out to Councilor Lewis that it is in their charter. So it is referenced there, and that gives us the authority to do that.
That's, yeah, 502B.
Right. It's not like on a whim, we're just deciding to do it. It authorizes us to do it. So, and this is going to be with anyone, is this going to be sent to everyone that's on boards and commissions as an example? Or how is this going to get out there so they know that this exists? I mean, they do know it exists when they first get appointed, I believe, in their appointment letter, or no?
I'm sorry, what's your question?
When someone gets appointed to a board or a commission, they never received anything like this that states if you miss 3 consecutive meetings, you could be removed. No?
No.
Okay. So maybe this should go to all the chairs of the boards and commissions so they could share it with their board and commission members so they know that this is out there and that they could be removed?
I can do that. Would it be also make sense to share it with, you know, when you have your caucus meetings, just to let them know that there's an email coming? Just to.
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Just so the word is out there so they know that this is a.
And plus, in the sample of the resolution appointing, the clerk did put the highlighted, please note in accordance with the council rules. So that will be on their resolution letter as well. Correct.
Okay.
That
But the
way they
ones in
see
the
it.
past, this is going forwards, but the ones in the past.
Correct, right.
Have never received or know that, you know, we need to share this with the folks. Okay, sorry.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, ready to move on? All right. Moving on to item 13E, Councilor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution approving a construction and site lease with option agreement with Marcus Communications to erect a communications tower at the Trax facility located at 124 Sullivan Avenue. Whereas the town of South Windsor has a capital project plan to erect a communication tower at the Trax facility located at 124 Sullivan for emergency services communications, and whereas the town of South Windsor has planning and zoning approval for the construction of the communication tower, and whereas the town of South Windsor Public Works Department has finished all planning and zoning required site plan improvements, and whereas Marcus Communications LLC has proposed to the town of South Windsor to enter into a site lease with option agreement to construct the communication tower at no cost to the town of South Windsor, with the anticipation of telecommunication vendors leasing at the site, and whereas the town of South Windsor will receive 50% of all net rental income revenue on all telecommunication vendor leases at the Trax Communication Tower once the construction costs are paid off, and whereas the town of South Windsor town attorney has reviewed and approved the draft agreement, now therefore be it resolved that the town of South Windsor Town Council hereby authorizes Town Manager Michael Maniscalco to sign and execute all necessary agreements, documents, and contracts with Marcus Communications LLC for the construction of a communication tower at the Trax facility.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Councilor Fitzgerald? Any questions regarding the resolution? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 13F, Councilor Carey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Reconciliation approving a management agreement with, resolution approving a management agreement with Marcus Communications to assist the town with managing all cellular telecommunications inquiries and contracts for town-owned property. Whereas the town of South Windsor has a capital project plan to erect a communication tower at the Trax facility located at 124 Sullivan for emergency services communications, and whereas the town of South Windsor has planning and zoning approval for the communication tower, and whereas the communication tower has a proposed contract with Verizon to be the first lease at 575 Pleasant Valley Road, and whereas the town of South Windsor anticipates more communication vendors leasing in our sites, and whereas the town of South Windsor is looking for the best lease agreements in the town's interest, and whereas the town of South Windsor needs a company to assist our employees with monitoring existing vendors, centralizing communication with vendors, advising the town of South Windsor with proposed lease agreements, and manage the different vendor site visits. And whereas Marcus Communication has provided a proposal to provide these services for an annual cost of $9,000, now therefore be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby authorizes Town Manager Michael Maniscalco to sign and execute all necessary agreements, documents, and contracts with Marcus Communications.
Do we have a second? Second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Councilor Pendleton?
So, Mr. Maniscalco, this is basically saying that Verizon is only going on Pleasant Valley. It's not going on to the Trax facility as of yet?
Not as of yet.
But we intend to have Verizon over there?
We would intend to put whomever we can get on any of these towers.
Will Marcus work to get Verizon over there?
So this agreement is not to have Marcus Communications going out to market the towers to get additional people on all the different towers. In terms of the Trax tower, they probably will be, because that tower is being constructed under the Marcus Communication costs with the intention that they would get money back from leases. So they're going to be leasing that location out actively. This is to take care of all the locations that we have from a management perspective. So the idea is that when you have a tower in place and we have other entities on that tower, other than just the town of South Windsor equipment, those entities have to go into the tower, they do servicing on their equipment, things like that. We don't want some other entity going in there and maybe unplugging our equipment, or maybe we need Marcus Communications to help us with an engineering study prior to them putting some equipment on that tower. So that's what this agreement would be providing for the town.
But going forward, we may see another agreement, another resolution that authorizes them to put Verizon on Trax?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. 13G, Councilor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution regarding Timothy Edwards Middle School and Pleasant Valley Elementary School solar array placements. Whereas the town of South Windsor has been provided by Green Skies Clean Energy LLC with a proposal to install solar panels on the roofs of South Windsor Public Schools, and whereas the estimated projected cost savings to the town of South Windsor by installing the solar panels at the Timothy Edwards Middle School and Pleasant Valley Elementary School, collectively the solar projects, prepared by the project consultant, is as follows. Estimated project savings amounts per schools. Timothy Edwards Middle School, estimated lifetime savings total, $756,310. Pleasant Valley Elementary School, estimated lifetime savings total, $319,190. Whereas the Town of South Windsor Energy Committee has endorsed installing solar panels to the roofs of the South Windsor Public School buildings at its meeting on March 20th, 2019, and whereas the Board of Education also endorsed installing solar panels to the roof of the South Windsor Public School buildings at its meeting on October 22nd, 2019, and whereas the Town Council found that it is in the best interests of the town and its residents to support the proposal based upon the projected cost savings and the overall benefits to the community in supporting green energy, whereas the Town Council on April 20th, 2020, authorized the town manager to execute all necessary documents with Green Skies Clean Energy LLC on behalf of the town to install and operate solar panels on the Town of South Windsor public school buildings, and recommended that the South Windsor Board of Education authorize the superintendent of schools to do the same. Whereas the Board of Education on September 24th, 2024, approved the solar projects and approved forwarding them to the Town Council for town authorization as described below. Now therefore be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby authorizes the town manager, Michael Maniscalco, to execute all necessary agreements, contracts, and documents with Green Skies Clean Energy LLC on behalf of the Town of South Windsor to install and operate the solar panels on the Town of South Windsor public school buildings, including Timothy Edwards Middle School and Pleasant Valley Elementary School, and be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council recommends that the South Windsor Board of Education authorize the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Kate Carter, or her designee to execute all necessary agreements, contracts, and documents with Green Skies Clean Energy LLC on behalf of the South Windsor Board of Education to install and operate the solar panels on the Town of South Windsor public school buildings, including Timothy Edwards Middle School and Pleasant Valley Elementary School.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Item 13H, Councilor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution authorizing the South Windsor Board of Education to apply to and accept or reject a grant for the South Windsor High School library roof replacements. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council authorizes the South Windsor Board of Education to apply to the Commissioner of Administrative Services and to accept or reject a grant for the library roof replacement at the South Windsor High School. Be it further resolved that the South Windsor Board of Education is hereby established as the building committee with regard to the library roof replacement at the South Windsor High School. Be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby authorizes at least the preparation of schematic drawings and outline specifications for the library roof replacement at the South Windsor High School.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. 13I, Councilor Balboni.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution establishing a committee for the purpose of reorganization and consolidation of boards and commissions. Whereas the list of boards and commissions requires a review to determine the reorganization and consolidation of boards and commissions to allow for the efficient operation of the Town of South Windsor. Now therefore be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby appoints Councilor Fitzgerald, Councilor Carey, Councilor Balboni to be part of the committee that will review the current board and commission listing. And be it further resolved that the committee will conduct a thorough review and evaluation of the boards and commissions and bring their proposed recommended changes to a town council meeting for review by the entire council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Councilor Balboni? No? No further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Councilor Buganski?
Aye.
Counselor Lewis? Counselor Balboni? Counselor Carey? Mayor Delnicki?
Yes.
Counselor King?
Yes.
Counselor Fitzgerald? Counselor Pendleton?
No.
All right, 7 and 1.
Okay, count is 7 and 1, motion passes. Moving on to 13J, Counselor Balboni.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. Resolution flag flying request to fly the Israeli flag October 18th through October 30th. Whereas the town manager, Michael Maniscalco, received, reviewed, and signed an application requesting that the Israeli flag be flown from October 18th, 2024 through October 30th, 2024. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves this request and asks that town manager Michael Maniscalco have the flag raised on the flagpole at Wapping Community House on Friday, October 18th, 2024, and lowered on Wednesday, October 30th, 2024.
Do you have a second? Any discussion? Counselor Lewis?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe that agreeing to fly different flags at various times causes division rather than unity. I understand that there is a flag policy in place, which I think needs to be changed. I believe that there should be only 3 flags: the American flag, the state flag, and the town flag. By doing this, we represent all citizens instead of highlighting special groups. All may be worthy, but only these 3 flags, the American, the state, and the town flags, represent us all. Because of the policy that's in place, I will vote in favor of this Israeli flag. They are our allies, and I will support them. I would ask for those people who are in favor of flying only the American, state, and town flags to contact the town manager, me, or any other town councilor so that your voice may be heard. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Maniscalco, did the applicant for it to fly the flag, did he knows he has to provide a flag to have it flown?
We're going to reach out to him to make sure that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to 13K, Councilor Baganski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution approving a tax abatement for Brennemint Properties, LLC, Esteem Manufacturing. Whereas the Town of South Windsor's Tax Partnership Program, established under Connecticut General Statute Section 12-65B, is intended to encourage the development and expansion of quality businesses in the town through tax and other economic incentives, and is designed to retain and attract companies that will generate substantial additional tax revenues and employment opportunities for the town while providing quality goods and services. And whereas the South Windsor Economic Development Commission recommends under said program that a tax assessment agreement be offered to Brennemint Properties LLC, Esteem Manufacturing, 187 South Satellite Road, as an incentive to expand the existing facility by 5,400 square feet. Now therefore be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council is offering a tax assessment agreement between the town and Brennemint Properties LLC, Esteem Manufacturing, reducing the real property assessment by 50% the first year, 40% the second year, and 30% the final year. The estimated tax benefit reduction for the new facility will total $23,157 over the 3 years, commencing with the grand list following the date the certificate of occupancy is issued, provided, however, that if such assessment is changed by any future town evaluation, and be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council's offer to Brennemint Properties LLC is conditioned upon Brennemint Properties LLC, Esteem Manufacturing, 1, meeting the estimated $900,000 construction estimate provided and agreeing to the estimated assessment figure, and 2, continuing to pay the real estate taxes on the facility for a minimum of 10 years from the date of the certificate of occupancy is issued. If Brennemint Properties LLC, Esteem Manufacturing, fails to meet either of these conditions, Brennemint Properties LLC, Esteem Manufacturing, shall refund the town of South Windsor all the tax benefit reductions it has received, and be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council's offer is contingent upon Brennemint Properties LLC, Esteem Manufacturing's execution of a written agreement reflecting the terms outlined in the resolution and such other.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Counselor Baganski.
Thank you. I just want to, reiterate that, our intent as a group, I think, is to structure these agreements for local businesses, town-owned, and, preferably residents of the town, versus these days looking at providing these for, large multinational corporations and, housing complexes that are going to put further strain on the town infrastructure. So just wanted to throw that out there, make sure everybody understood what our position was.
Thank you. Counselor Pendleton?
Yes, Mr. Maniscalco, could you please explain for the folks out there, how is Starlight Development and Starlight Development over here, two different addresses?
Starline's the next one.
Oh, Starline. Okay, wait, I know that's next, but it's in this one here that we just read. Starline Develop, it says to offer Starline Develop, where has it been changed? Oh, so it's not, okay, I'm sorry, I'm reading this. Thank you, never mind.
Okay, we had a motion and a second. That's okay. All those in favor say aye. Mr. Corella?
It's your meeting, it's up to you. Public comment was had on the agenda items at the beginning of the meeting. If there's a reason why he couldn't be here, perhaps you may want to ask him that, but it's up to you whether or not you want to entertain a motion.
Do we want to entertain
anybody from the
Mr.
audience?
Burnham speak? Okay. Right. Okay, please come forward.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, here we go. Members of the Town Council, on July 24th, 2024, Southwinds Economic Development Commission approved a 3-year tax abatement for Esteem Manufacturing on an 8-to-1 vote. This 3-year tax abatement is as follows: 50% first year, 40% second year, 30% third year. Esteem Manufacturing is adding a 5,400 square foot addition to their existing building of 3,400 square foot building. The building cost is $834,675. The assessor has assessed the value of the new addition at $560,000. Current taxes on the property are $6,754.16 for real estate and $1,608.94 for personal property based off the current mill rates. With the new abatement, the new additional taxes would be $3,474 over the course of the 3 years based off the current mill rate. There is a potential to add more employees and personal property once the addition is complete. Based off the numbers presented by the application, the building fees are estimated to be around $12,520. A little background information regarding Esteem Manufacturing. Dave Kosick grew up in South Windsor, graduating from Cheney Tech in 1979. He started his business in a 250 square foot space in 1981. He moved to Ellington in 1982 into a 500 square foot space, eventually taking over additional spaces in the building to equal 4,500 square feet. While he was growing in Ellington, he hired 8 additional employees. In 1996, David purchased a 10,000 square foot building at 175 South Satellite Road. Between 1996 and 2016, Esteem Manufacturing hired 36 additional employees. In 2016, Esteem Manufacturing put a 2,000 square foot addition onto their existing building and hired 3 additional employees. In 2020, Esteem Manufacturing purchased 187 South Satellite Road to add more space to continue his growth. I would hope that the Town Council would approve this abatement that is being presented to you. Thanks for supporting economic development here in South Windsor. Sincerely, Paul Burnham, Chairman, South Windsor Economic Development Commission. Thank you.
Call for the question.
Thank you.
Is that?
Call for the question.
Excuse me, Councilor King, you weren't recognized to be calling the question, so. And that's where I was just moving on to, so. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, all those in, Everyone approved, so motion carries. Moving on to 13L. Counselor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution approving a tax abatement for Starline Development LLC. Whereas the Town of South Windsor's tax partnership program established under Connecticut General Statutes Section 12-65B is intended to encourage the development and expansion of quality businesses in the town through tax and other economic incentives, and is designed to retain and attract companies that will generate substantial additional tax revenues and employment opportunities for the town while providing quality goods and services. And whereas the Town of South Windsor Economic Development Commission recommends under said program that a tax assessment agreement be offered to Starline Development Incorporated, 107 Old Windsor Road, as an incentive to build a new 30,000 square foot facility. Now therefore, be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council is offering a tax assessment agreement between the town and Starline Development LLC, reducing the real property assessment by 50% the first year, 40% the second year, 30% the final year. The estimated tax benefit reduction for the new facility will total $92,628 over the 3 years, commencing with the grand list following the date the certificate of occupancy is issued, provided, however, that if such assessment is changed by any future town evaluation, and be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council's offer to Starline Development Incorporated is conditioned upon Starline Development Incorporated, number one, meeting the estimated $3,822,000 construction estimate provided and agreeing to the estimated assessment figure, and number two, continuing to pay the real estate taxes on the facility for a minimum of 10 years from the date the certificate of occupancy is issued. If Starline Development Incorporated fails to meet either of these conditions, Starline Development Incorporated shall refund the Town of South Windsor all of the tax benefit reductions it has received. And be it further resolved that the Town of South Windsor Council's offer is contingent upon Starline Development Incorporated's execution of a written agreement reflecting the terms outlined in the resolution and such other.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? Counselor Fitzgerald?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I just had a quick question. We're referring to this as Starline Development LLC, and then in the be it further resolved, it switches to Starline Development Incorporated. Is there is that how it should be, or is that an error? Like, should the be it further resolved be changed to LLC?
It's the property owner, whichever entity is the property owner. We'll figure that out. The real estate property owner is the one that gets the abatement. So I'm not too sure which one that is. Is it? It's the LLC.
So that last one that I need to change is, be it further resolved, South Windsor Town Council's offer to Starline Development LLC is conditioned upon Starline Development LLC, number one, number two. And be it further resolved, at the end, South Windsor Town Council offers contingent upon Starline Development LLC's execution of a written agreement reflecting the terms outlined in the resolution and such offer.
So basically changing all inks
All the
to
inks.
LLCs.
Oh, I see the one up top too. Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
No,
No, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to 13M, Counselor Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution approving refund batch number 4 of 42 refunds totaling $8,506.25. Be it resolved that South Windsor Town Council hereby approves 42 refunds, the total of said refunds being $8,506.25, and as more fully described in Exhibit A.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to 13N, Counselor Pendleton.
Resolution concerning the transfer of real property known as Shank Road, East Windsor. Whereas the Town of South Windsor owns real property located in the Town of East Windsor, a portion of which consists of a private road which is known as Shank Road, East Windsor. and whereas Shank Road serves as a sole means of access to several residents of the town of East Windsor living along Shank Road, and whereas pursuant to Connecticut General Statute Section 13A-48 and 7-148, the town of East Windsor has the authority to accept land within its town limits for purposes of a public road and has a duty to maintain such public roads. And whereas the town of South Windsor has no authority to accept nor any duty to maintain public roads outside of its town limits. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of South Windsor authorizes the town manager to transfer the real property known as Shank Road located in the town of East Windsor to the town of East Windsor for the purposes of a public road in accordance with all state and local law.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second, discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Moving on to item 14, passage of ordinance, we have none. Public input, item 15, public input for any matter. Public input for any matter over which the council has jurisdiction shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by the mayor, the speakers shall approach the lectern, give their name and address. Speakers shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any person. The speakers may address the council on any item over which the council has jurisdiction. The speakers shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to come forward at this time? Mr. Edwards.
This on? Perfect. Hi, Dan Edwards, 131 Hilton Drive. Here to speak about 3 items. Item 13C, which was a discussion item regarding a Parks and Rec facility, I believe. This is going to be more of an essence of transparency, a transparency request. Despite an overwhelming majority of residents, I think it was 3 years ago, voting down a referendum at Nevers Park, this evening a councilor spoke about receiving letters, or numerous letters, in support of a facility at Nevers. So in the spirit of transparency, I'd ask that for any councilor who receives emails or letters in support of any item, period, forward to the clerk of the council for inclusion on the town website. I think it's important to note, as we've seen over the years, we've had items that have come before the council that seem to elicit big public interest, but we're only driven by like 1 or 2 people. Next is item 13F. I think that's just a Marcus Telecommunications. I'm in support of it, but I'm concerned that we don't have tentative arrangements already with Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, and I echo Councilor Pendleton's concern. It's questionable that we've already paid money to build these towers, specifically at Veterans Memorial Pool, which is right down the street from me, and we have no cell phone providers already there. I think it's been 2 years since we spent that money. It just seems like a big waste of taxpayer money to spend money without having the agreements in place. I'd actually ask the town manager going forward that we actually, before we actually put money or spend money on these towers, that we have a general agreement to actually get new providers in place. This weekend I attended the Apple Fest and spoke with spoke with a Board of Ed member, a former town councilor, both who were commenting about the lack of cell phone communications and the ability there. And if the goal is to move more and more folks to that area of town for festivals, we need to make sure that we actually have the ability to communicate and use phones. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that one of these towers that's being proposed is Sullivan Avenue, the Trax facility, which I think is the animal rescue. Okay. I assume that area would cover Rye Street. And then lastly, agenda item 13I, I'm in favor of this resolution. We have multiple commissions, including 2 new ones in the past 3 years, both of which have either stepped on or conflicted with existing, or the mission statement and the intent of existing commissions. We need functional commissions. I think earlier there was an agenda item about removal of people who may not be attending meetings. I don't think that's really the issue. I think the issue is we have too many commissions. And at the Charter Review Commission meeting a few weeks ago, or the public hearing, I proposed a 2-year waiting period for any new commission to be brought forward to make sure that it truly represents the interests of the community as a whole and not just the party in charge at the time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to come forward? Anyone else like to come forward at this time? Okay, seeing none, moving on to item 16, communications from the council. Councilor Pendleton?
Yes, I'd like to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is that we don't have the RTC chair here this evening to apologize to our community for the letter that was written about removing our mayor from her position and what it put our town through. I've heard from many folks that have even blamed the Democrats in stating that we should be talking with you guys, the Republicans, on how to fix the problem in the situation. One of the comments that I received was about airing the dirty laundry of the Republican Party in putting a stain on South Windsor. So I would hope that we receive, the community receives an apology on behalf of the Republicans for our community. And also with an apology, and I'm not sure that it's been given yet, but I would hope, and I'm just going to put the seed out there, on the vulgarities that were spoken to our staff and about our staff. And I would appreciate if whoever did that would apologize to the staff because they are employed by us. So it's an embarrassment to the council when folks behave that way. And I just wanted to share what I've heard from the public. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Pendleton. Anyone else? Councilor Balboni.
I'll refrain from any vulgarities at this time. Councilor Pendleton is referring to me, and everybody that was involved has been talked to individually. And yes, I publicly apologize. My vulgarities were uncalled for, but there were multiple mistakes made that week. And I don't like to be made to look incompetent by other people's incompetence. And I got a little carried away. No excuse. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. Moving on to, well, we already had item 17. Moving on to item 18, motion for adjournment. Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And everyone, have a good night. Thank you.